Well, Jim Carrey's an idiot. I'll just be honest with you. I don't think he was an idiot before the movie. I think Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman affected.
I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
Today, we're diving deep into Jim Carrey's most infamous Hollywood conflicts. The moments that were tense, unfiltered, and completely unforgettable. You won't believe some of these revelations, and by the end, you'll see a side of Jim Carrey no one talks about.
You do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
If you love uncovering Hollywood secrets, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss a single shocking story in this expose. This is Hollywood like you've never seen it, and the truth is about to come out. First on the list, Tommy Lee Jones. When Jim Carrey recalls the darker corners of his career, one name surfaces with uncomfortable weight: Tommy Lee Jones. It's one of those Hollywood stories that has drifted through rumor mills for decades, whispered between set workers and talk show couches. But behind the laughter and charisma, Carrey's recollection of Batman Forever reveals something far colder, a clash not of egos, but of worlds that could never coexist. It was 1994. Jim Carrey had just skyrocketed to fame. Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber had made him the undisputed king of comedy. Warner Brothers saw him as box office lightning in a bottle. And so, when he was cast as the Riddler opposite Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face in Batman Forever, it seemed like a match made in blockbuster heaven. But for Jones, a veteran steeped in the gravitas of dramatic acting, Carrey's brand of elastic chaos wasn't comedy. It was chaos, pure and unfiltered. The tension began subtly. Carrey, ever the optimist, tried to bond with Jones, even walking into a restaurant one night where Jones happened to be dining. What followed became one of Hollywood's most infamous encounters. Jones reportedly stood up, visibly irritated, and told Carrey bluntly, "I hate you. I really don't like you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery." Carrey, stunned but still smiling, later recalled the moment with a mixture of sadness and disbelief. It wasn't about jealousy or competition, it was rejection in its purest form. "I think he was uncomfortable," Carrey said in an interview years later. "Maybe I reminded him of something inside himself he didn't like." Their chemistry on screen, ironically, was electric, manic and unpredictable, as if the camera had captured the very friction that burned between them. But behind the scenes, Jones's disdain was palpable. Crew members recalled the awkward silences, the way Jones would retreat into his corner of the set, arms crossed, jaw tight, while Carrey tried to lighten the mood with jokes. The atmosphere was thick, a storm of conflicting energies, the classical actor versus the improvisational wild card. For Carrey, the experience left a mark. He would later reflect that Batman Forever was the first time he realized not everyone celebrated his comedic intensity. Hollywood, he learned, wasn't always a playground. Sometimes it was a battlefield of artistic philosophies. Years later, as Carrey evolved from slapstick comedian to introspective artist, he often hinted at those moments of rejection as the fuel behind his transformation. Jones became, in a way, a symbol, the embodiment of old Hollywood's discomfort with chaos, spontaneity, and emotional freedom. Today, their feud remains one of the most legendary in film lore, not because it was loud, but because it revealed something deeper about artistic identity. Carrey once summarized it best: "Some people need control. I need freedom. And those two things don't live well together." It wasn't hatred born of ego. It was incompatibility written into the DNA of two very different men, one who thrived in order and one who thrived in madness. Number 2. Jerry the King Lawler. If Jim Carrey's feud with Tommy Lee Jones was about clashing philosophies, his battle with Jerry the King Lawler was something else entirely. A descent into the blurred line between acting and obsession. It wasn't just a disagreement on set, it was a psychological war fought in the name of art. The year was 1998. Jim Carrey had already conquered Hollywood comedy, and now he was ready to transcend it. Man on the Moon, the biopic of Andy Kaufman, was supposed to be his masterpiece, a chance to prove that he wasn't just a funny man, but an artist of depth and danger. But what began as a film soon turned into a full-scale identity crisis. Carrey didn't just play Andy Kaufman, he became him. For months, he refused to break character. He insisted that everyone on set, cast, crew, even the director, address him only as Andy. For wrestler and actor Jerry the King Lawler, who had once feuded with the real Andy Kaufman in the 1980s, this commitment quickly crossed the line. Lawler came to the set expecting professionalism, rehearsals, coordination, respect. What he got instead was Jim Carrey throwing himself so deep into Kaufman's chaotic persona that reality began to dissolve.
There's what went wrong with it. Jim Carrey went wrong with that.
So he was taking it for a
if you
shoot?
ask me.
Did he think y'all really didn't like each other?
He obviously thought we really didn't like each other. And at one point in time, I called the director off, Milos Forman, and I asked Milos, I said, Milos, I said, has this freaking guy not read the script? Surely, does he not realize that Andy and I were actually in real life friends?
Lawler later revealed that the tension started during a recreation of one of Kaufman's infamous wrestling stunts. Carrey, in character as Kaufman, decided to improvise, spitting in Lawler's face, hurling bottles, and taunting him between takes. What might have been theatrics to Carrey felt like humiliation to Lawler.
In the movie Man on the Moon, the rift with Jim Carrey, talk about how that all came about.
Well, Jim Carrey's an idiot. I'll just be honest with you. I don't think he was an idiot before the movie. I think Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman affected this guy. He told everybody during the filming of Man on the Moon that he was channeling Andy Kaufman. And I think that during the film of this movie, he somehow in his mind thought that Andy and I just really hated each other. So he just did everything that he could think of during the filming of this movie to antagonize me and make my life a living whatever.
He went too far, Lawler recalled years later. Andy was unpredictable, but he never disrespected people off camera. Jim did.
The last scenes that we shot of the movie was the reenactment of the David Letterman show, where I slapped Andy out of his chair, and so that was my revenge on David Letterman's show there, with David there sitting there, and I got to slap Jim Carrey. I slapped him twice as hard as I slapped Andy Kaufman.
Behind the scenes, crew members were torn. Some defended Carrey's process, insisting that his madness was necessary to channel Kaufman's spirit. Others quietly called it abuse. Director Milos Forman tried to mediate, but eventually gave up, choosing to let Carrey spiral unchecked. The result was a set that felt less like a movie and more like a psychological experiment. Carrey, years later, admitted that he lost himself entirely during those months. Andy took over, he said in the 2017 Netflix documentary Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. Watching the footage, audiences could see the toll: Lawler's visible frustration, Carrey's manic laughter, and a constant sense that something sacred and toxic was unfolding simultaneously. For Lawler, the experience left a permanent scar. He spoke of it as one of the most uncomfortable experiences of his career, describing Carrey's behavior as unhinged and unnecessary. The two eventually reconciled, but the damage was done. Their relationship was forever tainted by the memory of those chaotic days. In hindsight, Man on the Moon became a metaphor for Carrey's own psyche: brilliant, unpredictable, and dangerous to inhabit. What he saw as total artistic immersion, others saw as cruelty masked as method. The irony is that the performance was breathtaking. Carrey's portrayal of Kaufman earned him a Golden Globe and critical acclaim. But for those who lived through it, the question lingered: was it worth it? As Lawler later said, half in jest, half in truth,
I survived wrestling Andy Kaufman.
but wrestling Jim Carrey was far more painful. And maybe that's the real tragedy. In chasing the ghost of Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey became one himself. 3. Martin Freeman. Jim Carrey's relentless pursuit of perfection and transformation on Man on the Moon didn't just create friction with wrestlers like Jerry Lawler. It also earned him criticism from his fellow actors, including the understated yet sharp-eyed Martin Freeman. While Freeman was not part of the original 1999 cast, he later encountered Carrey during retrospectives and discussions of the performance. His observations struck at the heart of what some in Hollywood perceived as Carrey's method approach gone too far. Freeman labeled Carrey's work as self-aggrandizing, selfish, narcissistic, and highly amateurish. The comment, though blunt, wasn't aimed at diminishing Carrey's talent. It was a reflection of the tension that arises when a singular, consuming performance dominates the energy of everyone around it.
The thing that happened with him was that he would never break character. So he was a method actor. So for 4 months, he played as this real life person. And even to the point where his driver that would pick him up in Hollywood and drive him to his house said that whoever he was playing at the time that they stopped recording, whether it was Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton, he would play that person the entire day when he was driving him home that night, and he'd pick him up and he was still the same person, not Jim Carrey anymore.
Carrey's immersion as Andy Kaufman wasn't just a role, it was a full-scale takeover of the set. He lived, breathed, and bled Kaufman's identity, often to the detriment of the collaborative environment on which film relies. Freeman's critique reflects a rarely discussed truth in Hollywood. The most gifted actors can inadvertently suffocate their colleagues.
Freeman, who starred in The Hobbit, had some harsh things to say about Carrey's portrayal of comedian Andy Kaufman in the 1999 film Man on the Moon. A behind-the-scenes documentary called Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond debuted on Netflix in 2017. Throughout the film, Jim Carrey insisted on playing the part of Andy, even when the cameras were not rolling. Because of Kaufman's actual animosity with professional wrestler Jerry Lawler, he spent 4 months in character tormenting him continuously off
In
camera.
Carrey's case, his mania, humor, and improvisational genius were undeniable, but they came at a cost. Freeman argued that Carrey's intensity crossed the line from dedication into self-indulgence, that the performance, while electrifying, was sometimes about Carrey's ego asserting itself over the narrative, over the crew, and over anyone who dared enter his orbit. Behind the scenes, stories circulated of Carrey making every conversation, every moment, about inhabiting Kaufman. Actors and assistants described a climate where improvisation merged with intimidation, where disagreement or critique was nearly impossible because Carrey had become, for weeks or months, the character himself. Freeman's comment was, in essence, a cautionary observation. Talent untempered by collaboration can alienate even the most patient peers. Yet Carrey's transformation into Kaufman also earned him acclaim and cemented his reputation as a fearless, boundary-pushing performer. Critics hailed his work as visionary. Audiences were captivated by the audacity of his immersion. But within the hallowed halls of film sets and among co-stars like Freeman, admiration was mixed with unease. Carrey's brilliance was undeniable, but the cost, professional friction, personal irritation, and whispered critiques was real. It's worth noting that Freeman's remarks were measured and professional. They weren't part of a public feud or media battle. They were honest reflections of what happens when two approaches to craft collide. Carrey, he noted, throws everything into it, which is extraordinary, but sometimes forgets everyone else is in the room. For Carrey, Freeman's critique might have stung at first, but it likely also reinforced his own philosophy. Art isn't always comfortable, and discomfort is often where transformation occurs. While some viewed him as overindulgent, Carrey's commitment has become a benchmark for risk-taking in acting, a reminder that greatness can sometimes be socially challenging. In the end, the dynamic between Carrey and Freeman encapsulates a truth about Hollywood. Brilliance can create tension, and genius can be isolating. Freeman's assessment, though sharp, serves as both critique and acknowledgement, recognition that Carrey's artistry was powerful, even if it sometimes eclipsed the people around him. It's not easy to watch someone inhabit a role that completely overshadows everyone else, Freeman reflected. But sometimes, that's what it takes to make history. Carrey's legacy, like Freeman's judgment, is a study in extremes, audacious, magnetic, and occasionally impossible to share. 4. Shia LaBeouf. In Hollywood, some feuds are born in the shadows of movie sets, while others erupt under the glaring lights of public scrutiny. Jim Carrey's tension with Shia LaBeouf belongs to the latter category, a clash not forged in character improvisation or method acting, but in the unforgiving court of celebrity reputation. The saga began during a Golden Globe ceremony when Carrey, ever the master of satire, made a quip at LaBeouf's expense. At the time, LaBeouf had been embroiled in a high-profile plagiarism scandal, accused of lifting large portions of a short story for his own work. Carrey, known for his sharp comedic timing and fearless delivery, seized the moment on live television. The joke was biting, yet typical of Carrey's style, irreverent, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. What followed was immediate and public. LaBeouf, known for his intensity and impulsive temperament, responded with a flurry of tweets that were both defensive and aggressive. Social media became a battlefield. Fans weighed in. Journalists dissected every exchange, and Hollywood insiders watched closely, knowing that when Carrey was involved, things rarely stayed tame. LaBeouf's words were cutting, attacking Carrey personally, while also defending his reputation as a creative artist. The tone was raw, emotional, and unfiltered, a reflection of LaBeouf's volatility and Carrey's uncanny ability to provoke. Behind the public theater, the tension between them was more than mere entertainment. Carrey's comment touched on a deeper discomfort with LaBeouf's repeated missteps in professional responsibility and artistic integrity. For Carrey, the joke wasn't just a moment on stage. It was a mirror reflecting LaBeouf's pattern of controversy. LaBeouf, conversely, saw the joke as an unwarranted attack, a challenge to his credibility in a world where perception often matters as much as talent. Industry insiders described the clash as a collision of two worlds. Carrey, a seasoned performer whose career balances humor with profound insight, and LaBeouf, a younger actor whose unpredictability and provocative persona often overshadowed his craft. Their feud became a cautionary tale of fame in the digital age, how a single joke, amplified through social media, can ignite months of tension and public scrutiny. Carrey, known for navigating Hollywood with a blend of candor and calculated distance, eventually chose to sidestep escalation. He rarely addressed the incident beyond acknowledging it with characteristic wit and detachment. LaBeouf, meanwhile, continued to process the event publicly, creating a lingering sense of discomfort for both parties. Their interaction exemplified a modern Hollywood dynamic. Feuds are no longer confined to whispers on set or behind closed doors. They unfold for the entire world to witness, with consequences that ripple through careers and reputations. Despite the public nature of the dispute, it never evolved into an ongoing professional feud. They never worked together, and the incident largely remained a cautionary anecdote in Hollywood circles. Yet the episode left a lasting impression on both actors. Carrey's sharp humor and fearlessness in confronting uncomfortable truths collided with LaBeouf's intensity and defensiveness, creating a clash of personality and principle that would linger in the memories of fans and colleagues alike. As Carrey once reflected on the episode in an interview, "I've never gone out of my way to hurt anyone, but sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, and the world needs a little laughter with its honesty." For LaBeouf, the lesson was equally clear. In the age of instantaneous commentary, sensitivity and accountability can define the trajectory of a career. The feud, brief yet unforgettable, became a defining footnote in both of their Hollywood stories, a reminder that wit, ego, and public perception can collide with explosive consequences. 5. Directors and crew. Michel Gondry. Not all of Jim Carrey's professional clashes occurred with fellow actors. Sometimes the greatest tensions emerged behind the camera, where vision, discipline, and expectation collided. One of the most notable examples unfolded on the set of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the critically acclaimed 2004 film that would redefine Carrey's career and expand his artistic range. Working with Michel Gondry, a director renowned for his surreal visual imagination and unconventional approach, was both a thrill and a challenge for Carrey. Gondry's sets were famously fluid, almost dreamlike, relying on improvisation, physical innovation, and a level of unpredictability that often mirrored the psychological landscapes he wanted to capture on film. For Carrey, this meant a delicate balancing act, not only embodying the complex character of Joel Barish, but also navigating a constantly shifting directorial environment. From the outset, clashes arose. Gondry's vision demanded flexibility and a willingness to explore emotionally vulnerable and physically demanding scenes. Carrey, known for his intensity and devotion to character, often found himself at odds with the abstract and sometimes chaotic nature of Gondry's methods. Crew members recounted long days where Carrey would resist repeated takes of physically draining sequences, not out of laziness, but from a desire to protect the authenticity and emotional integrity of his performance. Gondry, on the other hand, pressed for experimentation, improvisation, and the kind of cinematic risk that would define the film's unique tone. Tensions mounted during sequences that required both emotional subtlety and physical strain. Gondry, ever the visionary, pushed for shots that tested Carrey's endurance, from underwater takes to emotionally raw improvisational moments. Carrey, immersed in the character, sometimes questioned the necessity of repeating scenes that he felt had already captured the truth of the moment. "I'm here to give you honesty," Carrey reportedly said. "Not just motion, not just optics, real feelings." Gondry, equally insistent, viewed repetition and physical exploration as integral to capturing the fluidity of memory and the surrealism of love and loss. These creative differences occasionally spilled into small public disagreements, though never as antagonistic as those with certain actors. Rather, they were clashes of philosophy, structured emotional truth versus abstract cinematic experimentation. Crew members described the atmosphere as tense yet productive, a pressure cooker of genius where irritation and inspiration were intertwined. Despite the friction, the collaboration ultimately produced a film that remains iconic for its originality and depth. Carrey's performance, lauded as a career-defining departure from his comedic persona, showcased his ability to balance vulnerability with subtle restraint, while Gondry's direction created a dreamlike, visually inventive universe. The friction, insiders suggest, was essential. Without the tension between them, the film wouldn't have had the heartbeat it did, one crew member reflected. In hindsight, the clash between Carrey and Gondry illustrates the paradox of filmmaking. Creativity thrives on tension, yet tension can test even the most disciplined performers. Carrey later acknowledged that working with Gondry stretched him in ways that were both exhausting and transformative, a reminder that true artistry often demands discomfort. "He challenged me in every way possible," Carrey said years later. "It wasn't always easy, but I think it was exactly what the story needed." For Carrey, the Gondry experience became a lesson in collaboration, endurance, and the delicate dance between actor and director. A nuanced feud, not of personalities, but of artistic wills. It reinforced that the most profound creative work often emerges from the friction of vision against vision. Jim Carrey's career has been a roller coaster of genius, chaos, and unforgettable performances. But behind the laughter and the spotlight lies a world of tension, ego clashes, and rivalries that few ever get to see. From Tommy Lee Jones's blunt rejection to Shia LaBeouf's fiery social media battle, from method acting extremes to clashes with directors like Michel Gondry, these 6 stories reveal a side of Hollywood that's raw, unfiltered, and sometimes brutal. What's clear is that even the brightest stars have their limits. Even someone as fearless, elastic, and daring as Jim Carrey. These feuds remind us that art, ego, and ambition often collide in ways that can be as dramatic as the films themselves. If you enjoyed uncovering these behind-the-scenes stories, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single Hollywood expose. And we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, which of these 6 clashes shocked you the most? Or is there another feud you think should be on Jim Carrey's list? Share your thoughts below, because your insight might be the spark for our next deep dive into Hollywood's untold stories.